What's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today, we've got some awesome topics for you guys, but before we get into it, please make sure you hit that like button and also subscribe if you're someone new. Now, let's talk about this because the US NPD sales have been revealed. Matt Piscatella on Twitter has broken things down very easily for everybody to go out there and read, and there's some major milestones that the Nintendo Switch has accomplished that's actually really impressive. Also, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury took out one of the top selling games of the year. Call of Duty's always selling so well. Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury was able to come in at the top spot, and we're going to discuss that. But I also wanted to get into the impact of what we're seeing with the Nintendo Switch and how it kind of shows that the PlayStation 5 and to more of a degree, the Xbox series of systems just weren't ready to launch based on some of these US NPD sales numbers. Now, you have to remember, guys, the US, it's the biggest market for game sales and for system sales. So pretty much everything here, while it's not for like the whole world and everything, obviously there's different dynamics in different places. You can kind of get a good idea of how a system is selling based on how it's selling here in the US. So let's start off with what Matt Piscatella had to say here. He started off with the US NPD hardware sales. The Nintendo Switch was the best selling hardware platform in both unit and dollar sales for February, because that's important because it does track separately when it comes to unit sales and dollar sales. So that's pretty cool to see the Nintendo Switch top both of those. Also, the unit and dollar sales of the Nintendo Switch hardware in February were the highest for any hardware platform in a February month since the Nintendo Wii in February 2009, which is absolutely incredible if you look at all the different systems that have launched since then. The fact that the Nintendo Switch was able to have the highest amount for February, man, that's pretty crazy because the PlayStation 4 was killing it for so long. And the fact that the Nintendo Switch was able to beat out any of those other systems for the past decade or so since the Wii in 2009, very impressive there. Now, we have some more stuff here to go over. So the total lifetime dollar sales of the Nintendo Switch hardware now exceed Nintendo's best-selling platform of all time. That is the Nintendo DS, making Switch Nintendo's second best-selling platform in US. Tracked history, Nintendo Wii ranks the first. Switch is currently the 7th best-selling hardware platform in lifetime US dollar sales. So it's already putting up some pretty bold numbers here. And to see that it's actually passed up the Nintendo DS, a system that sold over 150 million units, but had a really strong base in Japan. And of course, the rest of the world. The US was good as well too, but man, the DS was just a killer when it comes to worldwide sales. But the Nintendo Switch has passed it up and is climbing up the all-time ranks when it comes to hardware sales in the US. Now, I do want to go over just briefly some of the other stuff here. The PlayStation 5 ranked as the second best hardware selling platform in February in both unit and dollar sales, and the PS5 is currently the fastest selling hardware platform in US history for total dollar sales after 4 months on the market. Now, this kind of tripped up a few people because they're thinking, well, wait a minute, it's the fast selling system of all time. Not necessarily. It's the fastest selling when it comes to dollar amount, because there is a $400 model and a $500 model, and they sell out of all of them as soon as they get into stores. And Sony, while they haven't been doing the best job when it comes to supply, they do have quite a bit there. They're trying to get restocks, so I can't really fault them too much considering everything that went on last year, manufacturing, the coronavirus, the chip yield, and like there was just so much stuff that was working against them. So I have to give them some props for that as well. Now let's talk about Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury before we get into some of the other things here. So Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury debuts as the best-selling game of February. The title also ranks as the second best-selling game of 2021 year to date, despite the lack of digital sales tracking for the Nintendo published titles. So this is interesting because usually when you look at the software sales, they did remove, or at least some companies, so like Rockstar, they no longer give the digital sales numbers and everything. So like a lot of the Rockstar games, a lot of them are digital in terms of how they're purchased, like disappeared. But the Nintendo Switch, despite not having that digital, has a huge physical uptake. It has a huge physical uptake, which is the reason why I always tell people, like, wait a minute here. People talk about everything's digital in the future. I think that a lot of Nintendo fans like to have that physical hardware, because the fact that you can come out for the month of February here and be towards the end of the month, right? Not necessarily at the very beginning and everything, and be the #1 and beat out a multi-platform release that's always selling like crazy, that has the digital and also the physical sales included, that is very impressive as well. That's also very impressive. Now, you guys will see the total software charts here. When it comes to it, Call of Duty was second. Persona 5 Strikers did good too. Miles Morales, all that's there for you guys. But I did want to talk about a couple different things with the Nintendo Switch and kind of how it's selling and the impact that it's having. Clearly, the system is going to do well every single month. As long as they bring out the games, there are going to be people that are excited to play it. Now, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, like I was trying to tell people before, we have this loud group of people that will scream port, 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 and I understand that. Like, I completely get that. But what these people don't realize is that nobody owned a Wii U. When you have a critical and commercial flop, less than 15 million units sold, I think barely even 14 million units sold, and Super Mario 3D World sold about like what, 5 million, 6 million? That's essentially nobody compared to the Nintendo Switch. And yes, a little bit of an exaggeration there, but it's such a small amount of the total sales potential for a game that high in quality. I think people who already purchased the game went out there and bought it. I think people who obviously didn't have any access to the Wii U went out there and bought it, and it created just absolute massive sales for the game, because for most people, it was a brand new game. So it was a smart idea to put out Super Mario 3D World plus the Bowser's Fury content to get people maybe who already had played the game, and then also to get people who were new to the Switch or didn't have the Wii U, or maybe even people who just wanted to play the game online. So very impressive to see Nintendo put up that without those digital sales numbers. And of course, if you go over on the eShop, it's selling very well across the world, and especially here in the US, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury is selling very well. So good to see that from Mario, and of course we're going to see that continue. That's going to be an evergreen game. We're seeing what that game is doing in Japan, pretty much topping the charts there, and still continued to be in the sales numbers for the top 10 weeks after release. So very good there. Now let's talk about this whole thing with the Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation and Xbox. Now, and I talked about this recently on one of my live streams, where I think that, of course, these systems with the PlayStation and with the Xbox PS5 and also Xbox series of systems, they're selling out. Anytime that they get stocked in, they're pretty much selling out. But the thing that is kind of worrying to me, or at least kind of shows that they should have been delayed, is the fact that the Nintendo Switch is not sold out here in the US. Now, there might be some shortages here and there. There might be some times where it's tough to get a Nintendo Switch, but they come in pretty frequently, right? You're seeing them all the time. So the production of these systems is in overdrive. But usually at this point, you know, we're 4 months plus, and it's to the fact that they can sell out of everything, yet still get beat fairly badly when it comes to console number of sales. So think about that just for a second. When you go to the store, it's sold out of Xboxes, it's sold out of PlayStations, and then you look at the Nintendo Switch and it's there. You see units there, but then you look at the hardware sales and it's like, whoa, wait a minute. This is like the best unit sales since like the Wii or whatever, right? So it's selling an astronomical amount every single month. Now, the leaked numbers so far put the Nintendo Switch at upward of 600,000 to 750,000 units sold for the month of February. So the amount that the PlayStation and Xbox are getting in every single month is definitely lower than that, like well lower than that, because they're not getting close to these records when it comes to it. Now, the PlayStation 5 is kind of not included in this as much. I'm kind of aiming it more at the Xbox, because the PS5 is still outselling the Xbox in pretty much every region. Also in Japan, the PlayStation is doing better there. So they're shipping more units, right? Because pretty much any unit that goes shipped out, it's going to be sold. So Microsoft in this case, I mean, you're looking at the software, there's really nothing when it comes to Xbox Series software. There's almost nothing from a first party or an exclusive standpoint that's new, not stuff that's backwards compatible or Game Pass already or launched on PC earlier, but actually said, we're going to dual launch this thing like a Demon Souls or like a Little Big Planet, or like some of the other games, Miles Morales. We're not going to dual launch it. It's just going to already be available, and then you can get it backwards compatibility with optimized for Xbox Series. We're talking like actual games that they said, hey, we're going to launch the system with. And it's been 4 months plus now, and we have no indication when it comes to big new first-party games outside of Halo. Outside of that, and on top of that, they're not producing enough systems to even be close to PlayStation in the sales. On top of that, like with the Nintendo Switch smoking them, yet they're sold out. That means that there's barely any systems out there. There's just not enough Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S out there, which shows me that this should have been delayed. You can't have sellouts yet still get beat by astronomical amounts every single month when a system isn't sold out. Now, if it was closer, then okay, but what we're seeing here is the PlayStation 5 is definitely doing better than the Xbox here in the US, and we're seeing that the Nintendo Switch is doing better than both of them by a large margin because of all these records that they're setting. So they needed to delay it. I think it's pretty clear there's not any big newer games. Not that there aren't games in general, but both systems sometimes are kind of lacking when it comes to newer games. There's a lot of backwards compatible stuff, which is great, which is really good, you know, but there isn't a lot of like the big new games within, you know, the first few months that you want to see on the platform. Now, PlayStation does have some stuff, like I said, they launched with it, so this is more towards the Xbox, but it does seem like there's definitely a shortage. And of course, like the whole coronavirus, like I understand that and everything, but man, it would have been so much better if Microsoft and Sony were able to somehow get these systems more like it, and launch them in 2021. Imagine what could have happened if you had a cleaner launch where you didn't have to worry about coronavirus as much, as people are getting healthier and getting vaccines, and you don't have to worry about the chip shortages that are going down. You can stockpile those, and then you have more time to develop your games. You have the Bethesda stuff that you can do, and you can announce then. I mean, it would have just been so much better for both of these companies now. And I get it, there's investors, they wanted to get it out there, they wanted to start making their new money and revenue. Like, I completely understand why they weren't, but I swear it would have just been so much better for gamers out there if it was. It almost harkens back to kind of what happened with the Nintendo Switch. Everyone was kind of saying, hey, it's going to be 2016, it's going to be 2016. They waited a bit more and made it 2017 March, and were able to have a steady flow of games from Breath of the Wild. Then they also have Mario Kart, then they also had Splatoon 2 and ARMS, Mario plus Rabbids, Fire Emblem Warriors, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Super Mario Odyssey. All of those were in the first 9 months of the system, just exclusive, on top of ports and other games as well. So to me, it just would have been nicer if they did that, but you're seeing that within the sales. The fact that sold out, right? Sold out, yet still getting beat fairly badly, and Xbox is the worst offender here with it. Now, that doesn't mean they're not going to recover. That doesn't mean I hate my Xbox Series system. I actually really like my Xbox Series X. I use it for like Twitch and all that, and once they start getting some games on there, some nice exclusives, I'll definitely play it more. Once Halo comes out, or once like Fable comes out, or all these games, it's probably going to be a while, but once they do come out, I'll be right there playing them day one and everything. Same thing goes with my PS5. I play a lot of backwards compatible stuff on there, which improves the loading times and frame rates, and that's awesome too, you know. But I think Sony definitely did a little bit better with their launch, and then also with having Returnal that's coming out pretty soon here, and then Ratchet and Clank in the summertime, which we're still waiting down on Microsoft to release something. We're still waiting on Halo, which was supposed to be ready last year, right? So, man, it's just a little bit of a mess, but then it also goes to show you, like on the flip side, it goes to show you how well the Nintendo Switch is doing, how well this concept is doing, and what they're doing with the system. It's just selling at crazy levels right now, and I don't think it's going to slow down. There's more software coming. Every single month, we pretty much got big games. Monster Hunter Rise is coming out this month as well. We also have the AAA Nights game balance. No, I'm joking on that. But we have some more. Monster Hunter Stories 2. We also have Legend of Zelda. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff. Mario Golf coming as well. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the year. I'm looking forward to seeing how the sales are going to play out and everything. But overall, man, it's just interesting to kind of compare and contrast. But at the same time, definitely play whatever you can. Have fun. I know I have all the systems, PS5 and Xbox Series, and when those systems start getting more, I'll be right on top of it. So what are you guys' thoughts when it comes to the PlayStation, Xbox, and the Nintendo Switch NPD sales? Also, with the software sales here, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury taking the top spot without digital. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Check out the links in the description. We've got Twitter. Go and give us a follow on there. Stay up to date on all the latest gaming news and information. Also, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video if you can. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.